following program is intended for mature audiences.
I'm going to be honest with you, bro.
I'm going to beat up John Cena.
Oh, it's a great idea.
So who the hell do you think you are?
I was going to dress up like Brutus the Barber Beefcake, cutting and a strutting, and then I was going to beat up John Cena. Wonderful. I mean, come on. What's more fun than beating up John Cena?
Suplex City, bitch.
Beat up John Cena!
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
And welcome once again to the Weekly Suplex. I am Brian Thomas, joined as always by my partner, Juice Springsteen. Juice, how you doing today?
Pretty good. How about yourself, Brian?
I'm doing actually pretty good. It's been a interesting, kind of dull week for wrestling, but there's a couple things that we do need to talk about that happened on the Raw and SmackDown that I kind of had myself scratching my head as if to say WTF, man.
Yeah,
So,
go right ahead.
We'll talk about that.
Do
But first, before we get anywhere, I do have to mention that news broke probably in the last hour that Matt Cappelletti has passed away. If anyone doesn't know, Matt Cappelletti was one of the early people in the Tough Enough, back when it was actually an interesting show, generation. He was the one most famously known for getting the crap kicked out of him by Bob Holly on Tough Enough. He, shortly after being signed by the WWF at the time, contracted brain cancer. He fought it and was declared brain cancer free, and then a couple years later, most recently, it came back, and unfortunately about, I would say, less than a month ago, they decided not to fight it anymore, and he passed away. And so prayers and condolences to his wife and family. Everything that I've heard about him, he's a genuinely great guy. If you want to know more about him, you can find all sorts of stuff on the internet with the foundations that he's been part of, but you can also go back, and I believe Tough Enough is on the WWE Network, and you can go back and watch. I think he was season 3, I want to say.
I couldn't tell you the the specifics of that. I do believe it is on the network, just to piggyback on what you're saying. And yeah, it's another sad loss. And last week we came in with Vader passing away, and now this one, although not surprising per se, it just, you didn't want it to happen. You just thought maybe, it was going to work out a couple years ago, and then just turned for the worse. So again, prayers out to the family, and it's a shame.
It's a darn shame, and that was back when I was actually watching Tough Enough. I thought it was a very entertaining, good show. And Matt Cappelletti is one of the guys that I actually was rooting for to win the competition. So it was just kind of a shame to hear when he had first been diagnosed with brain cancer, and then to find out it just never, you could never get rid of it. And a sad thing is that with that kind of cancer, even if you fight and win, that one comes back a lot of times, and then unfortunately did for him. So sad news to start off the week again, but that's how it goes in the wrestling world, unfortunately. But let's talk about what happened this week on Raw mostly, and a little bit of SmackDown. I couldn't, first we get the opening segment in which Kurt Angle explains to us that the multi-man match is no longer on because he spoke too soon, and now we're running a stupid angle with Brock Lesnar saying he didn't sign off on this multi-man match to find his next challenger. So I don't know what the real truth behind all that is, but I mean, get your eggs in a basket.
I'm pretty certain that this is just an angle. I think the match is still going to happen. So I don't know. I thought it was an interesting. I know what. Again, it's going to make me want to look at next week and see what they're going to do with it. But from all accounts that I'm aware of, it seems that it would be still on. Especially in the local market. We still have the multi-man match as an advertised match as the show is in Pittsburgh. So
right, yeah.
But it's still the only guys mentioned are, I believe, the faces in the match, which would be who are already in there. Was it Roman?
Just Roman and Bobby Lashley.
And I think maybe someone else they had said was in there, but it was only those guys that they announced. They had not announced any heel guys in the advertisement. So who knows what they're going to do?
Yeah, the way they built it around was the fact that they were going to have Roman and Lashley wrestle. So I would much prefer it be Roman and Lashley in a multi-man match than those two headlining the pay-per-view. But, we'll have to wait and see. I hope you're right. I hope it is still all an angle to come on. But it's a stupid angle. I mean, that's just dumb. I don't like it, and it just made me scratch my head and go, what the hell's going on around here? The other thing that just had me scratching my head was the Bayley turn. This is something we've been waiting for, and it happened, and it was pretty awesome, I would say. I was happy to see it happen, and then they go and ruin it with the stupid counseling angle that Kurt Angle gives to Bayley and Sasha. They have to go to counseling or they lose their jobs.
Isn't that weird? It's odd to me. Now, I don't want to, think before I speak here, but isn't it odd that a character that is all about hugging and whatnot and just turns heel, but they have to get counseling instead of just letting it be, I'm a heel now? What's
right?
What is it, because they're girls? Is it women wrestling? It's different. The guys have to get counseling too if they turn heel. Did Nakamura didn't have to go through counseling, although he got bit by a dog.
Well, he was on a different brand, so Kurt Angle wasn't running his company.
That's true. So I don't know, but you got me. I don't know what they're doing, but I like the heel turn.
I love the heel turn. I thought it turned out really well, and I thought that the turn was. It's been built up for so long. It was finally happening, and the way that Bayley just manhandled Sasha Banks like that was awesome and impressive. And I don't know whether to think that Bayley's supposed to turn heel or if Sasha is. I'm thinking it's Bayley, and if I were WWE, I'd align her with the Riot Squad or someone to get her over better that way. But I don't know.
That'd be a good idea, Brian.
Well, I know, and that's just not what we do around here in the WWE.
No, it's not.
So those two things on Raw had me just scratching my head going, what the hell is going on here? And why are we doing this again?
It's almost like we say that every week.
Imagine that. I did like the show overall this week. It was much better than we've been getting, so that was a good thing. But still, it was
now things are up in the air though. Again, at least until next week. I'm like they could easily say, the multi-man match is back on, and as long as the counseling whatever session is better than the This Is Your Life segment, I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it.
We'll have to wait and see. I don't have much faith in it, although all I can hope is that when they get into counseling, they get at it and beat the trash out of each other again.
Do you want Dr. Shelby?
Yeah, sure.
Now, I bring that up, but Team Hell No just got brought back. Do you want to see him on both brands now?
So, yeah, let's talk about that, too. On SmackDown side of things, you mentioned already, Shinsuke Nakamura has to be scrapped from the match he was supposed to be in because he's bit by a freaking police dog who was backstage as part of security to make sure everything was clear.
It sounds like something that happened at a Great American Bash pay-per-view way back when.
When it was scripted.
With Rick Steiner and was it?
Oh, of course.
I don't know, man.
It's ridiculous. This dog out of nowhere goes up to Nakamura and just starts mauling his leg. To the point where he's in Japan right now on a tour of Japan for SmackDown, and he can't even work. He's on crutches. I mean, what the hell?
It's a wild situation. And isn't that funny that even such a random act like this that happened, we could find a parallel that happened in WCW?
Well, of course.
That's
pretty much everything has happened in WCW.
No matter how insane the story is. WCW had that happen.
Yeah.
And the worst part was that was planned to happen. This one was not.
Exactly.
Oh,
just bizarre.
So, yeah, it sucks that he can't work properly, in Japan.
Right. In front of his own crowd.
That sucks. So, I mean, I'm sure they understand.
That's pretty wild. I'm curious to see what happens with that situation because
I hope they bring it up on TV.
I doubt that they're going to. There's probably a lawsuit going on.
Well, maybe, but how did that happen? How did
Apparently the dog was going around sniffing for, make sure everything was clear for no bombs or whatever the hell they do. Security check. It went up to Nakamura, sniffed him, and then started biting him in the leg.
Well, he must not have liked him turning
Either Nakamura had a real bad smell on him, or I don't know, but dang.
Yeah, I don't know. See, maybe you can see Nakamura turn heel and he get bit by a dog. Maybe that'll happen to Bailey next week.
Oh, well, let's hope not. I hope they don't bring back those police guys, because that was a bad idea. Anyway, you mentioned it. Let's talk about it. Team Hell No, back together. Your thoughts on this? Is this a step down for Daniel Bryan?
No. This is exactly the type of stuff I was waiting to see. Okay, so when Daniel Bryan wants to get back in, we all know that the match we all want is him versus The Miz. Hopefully high profile, hopefully for a title, some sort of build, and hopefully at WrestleMania.
Right.
But before then, you want to get as much out of him as you can. You've got these random pay-per-views that aren't, SummerSlam or Money in the Bank. You got to have things headline it, and if it's not Brock, you got to have something. Boom. Why not have Daniel Bryan and Kane reunite? It's easy. Daniel Bryan doesn't have to do a lot of, spots. It's kind of safe for him in a way. Whether they win the titles or not, I don't know. I think if they do win them, that's more time that they can go around being Hell No. You know how over it was back in, 2012, 2013. Mm-hmm. It was huge. Yeah. Huge. And it was weird. The Bludgeon Brothers were beating up Daniel Bryan, and I was like, well, someone's coming out. Like, I didn't put two and two together, or just didn't think Kane would actually come out, or I don't know what, but I heard Kane, and I was like, oh, wow, I can't believe this is, going to happen. It's kind of exciting. It's odd that, a team thrust together by accident, random booking, that turned into a hot commodity is now a great, with nostalgia act. A couple years later. I like it.
I agree with you. I think this is a good move on WWE's part, because I think people are waiting for him to get a title shot, and you got to hold that off. I mean, it's too soon.
And that's the thing. It's going to happen. Fans know he's going to be in the middle. It's going to happen. It's just, why do it now? You got to wait.
Yeah,
let him get back in the fold. People love him again.
And like you said, he's got a ready-made storyline just waiting for them, and they got to slow burn and build this thing, and hopefully all the way to WrestleMania, because that's where it makes the most sense.
And it makes the most money.
Yeah, and so I love it. I mean, the whole deal with the multi-man gauntlet match that they had the week before, with Miz coming out there and just basically picking up the scraps of Daniel Bryan to beat him quickly, that was awesome, and a great way to do it.
It's just a little plot point that you'll remember right now, you'll forget later, but then they'll remind you again come WrestleMania if that's the goal.
Yeah, I like that part. I thought SmackDown had a pretty decent show this week, and Raw actually was much better than it has been. A couple, WTF moments, but
with 3 hours, it's going to happen.
Absolutely. So, that's about really everything that WWE this week. It's a real slow week. Obviously, they announced that finally the Fox and USA signings for the TV. It was made official. Finally, both 5-year contracts. There was rumors that the USA was a 10-year one. They announced it as a 5-year one. Didn't go over too much of the specifics other than to say that they're going to make a lot of money.
Did you notice that they, in one of the articles, I'm not really sure which one, they referenced SmackDown as the flagship show? That it would be the flagship show. They did that
on their Facebook page.
There you go, yeah.
Yeah,
we talked about it, where if it's going to be on, Fox, where everybody gets this station, it's going to be a big deal. And I brought this up to you and other people. It's such a perfect tie-in. You got Thursday Night Football that just got signed in for 5 or however many years on Fox, and it's Thursdays. So Friday SmackDown will have to be previewed. It'll be previewed. Everybody's going to talk about SmackDown going in from a real sport to this. They're going to talk about it. They are. They have to promote it. It's going to be fantastic. I can't wait.
I'm looking forward to it as well. I think it's going to be fantastic for WWE. I think it's going to be fun to see someone like Jay said the other week, Joe Buck, having to plug SmackDown, because that probably pisses him off.
Oh, yeah, because he won't be able to do any enthusiasm. He'll just be SmackDown tomorrow. See ya.
Don't forget to watch it.
Yeah, it'll be amazing.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I think it's great. It's nice that the news is finally announced. But other than that, there hasn't been a whole lot going on. You have the overseas trip in Tokyo going on for the SmackDown brand. You got the Raw brand touring up around here in the Dakotas right now. Not coming to Minnesota, which is kind of sad, but they're in the Dakotas right now doing some touring. And other than that, not much. Other than Orlando, they're holding some auditions for the next Performance Center trainees. So that's kind of interesting. They have a list of names out there that you can go and see who's there. I don't know a whole lot of them, but there's a lot of other athletes from other sports going in. And Chelsea Green from Impact Wrestling is trying out. She's Zack Ryder's girlfriend, so that's kind of fun. Otherwise, let's talk about something we normally don't talk about on this show, and that is other wrestling federations. You might call them the independents. And,
not as independent anymore. A lot of them are.
Well, they're still technically independents, even though they have deals and some do.
And as we speak, there's a pay-per-view that we're not watching from one of these said indie companies.
That is correct. Ring of Honor is the best in the world.
You didn't even know was going on?
I don't. I don't get to follow Ring of Honor because Sinclair doesn't broadcast it anywhere here.
Oh, that is a damn shame.
It is. I've always enjoyed Ring of Honor. I've been to 3 or 4 shows back in the day when Ring of Honor came through, and I always enjoy watching it when I do get to see it. But again, I think it plays at like 2 a.m. in the morning on the local station out here, so and I don't have a DVR, so I can't record it. It's redonkulous, so I don't ever get to see it.
You're gonna have to get a VCR up and running.
Yeah, I know, right? I do have a couple still functioning VCRs, believe it or not, here, and a lot of VCR tapes I could use if I needed to.
Oh, I believe it. I do too. I'm all about physical media, Brian.
Oh, you know it. But yeah, Ring of Honor Best in the World 2018 is going on right now. Pretty interesting card, I think. Bully Ray, Flip Gordon. Who would have thought Bully Ray in Ring of Honor?
Still, yeah.
Yeah, the Briscoes and the Young Bucks. That'll be a pretty darn good match. You got Austin Aries and Kenny King, Jay Lethal and Kushida, and then of course the main event, the ROH World Title match: Dalton Castle, Cody Rhodes, and Marty Scurll. So that. A loaded card for sure. A lot of great stuff. What I really like about the independents these days, in most cases, is that they're sharing talent a lot more than they used to.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of the talent that you see on like an Impact Wrestling, you'll also see on an MLW TV show and other things like that. And I think it's a brilliant move, a good move on their part, because these guys don't have the money or the know-how to compete with the WWE at this point and sign these guys to exclusivity contracts. Some of them are, I would say, but most of them aren't. And it's kind of nice, too, that they're allowing it. Yeah, back when Impact Wrestling was TNA, that was a big no-no. When you're signed on TNA, you're not allowed to be on anyone else's TV or pay-per-view.
And why would you want to do that?
Well, make money, obviously.
If they get the checks to you.
Well, yes, but showing up on... I remember back in the early days of TNA when the wrestlers all worked in Ring of Honor, and Ring of Honor at the time was only a DVD-based company, so there was no pay-per-view for Ring of Honor back then, and there was no TV shows.
That's when you had your CM Punks and AJ Styles.
AJ Styles, Samoa Joe.
Daniels, all those guys.
Absolutely. And I remember when TNA first pulled him off the show, because I was at the show the weekend where they came back from that whole incident, and TNA had pulled all their stars. I was supposed to be seeing Samoa Joe, AJ Styles. They were pulled from the card. It was I believe they branded it the Reborn series, and they did a show here in Minnesota and a show I believe in Chicago, and those were the back-to-back Reborn shows. And it was the first time they didn't have TNA talent on the shows, and that was just such a big disappointment. And that went on for years, even all the way until I believe the Hardys showed up on the pay-per-view, and Impact stopped them from using their gimmick on the show because they didn't want it on TV. Well, of course, that whole mess led to Impact relaxing the rules and allowing their talent to now be on other shows, other TV series, and other pay-per-views. Because, let's face it, they don't have the money to secure them to not. You can't tell them not to because you're not paying them enough to stop them. So it was a good move, and I like it. So it's kind of fun. I don't know. Have you watched any of the MLW shows yet?
I have not, but I've heard nothing but good things, considering
Okay.
Tony Schiavone's on commentary,
Mhm.
and a lot of their guys are some of the top guys in the independent scene right now. So
Yeah. Do you watch Impact at all?
I have not recently, but honestly, I was just looking at the updated Slammiversary card. Spoilers because they've been taped, but what they've got going is apparently really good, and I've seen nothing but rave reviews about their current product now. So
Yeah.
good for them. And generally, I will tune in, and I'll try to find a stream of a pay per view like that just to see how it's going. I don't condone illegal streams, but it happens.
I haven't seen a TNA pay-per-view in many, 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 many years, but I do catch Impact. I DVR it every week, and I don't always watch it, but I try to because it actually has been a lot better, especially since Scott D'Amore, Don Callis, and Sanjay Dutt have taken over the booking duties. It was a cluster for so many years because they were switching bookers and story writers and everything pretty much every taping that they did. So they'll tape about probably 3 months of shows in one taping event, and then 3 months later when those are done, you had a whole new booking team, and the whole direction was screwed up all over the place, and you just couldn't follow anything. So what Scott and Sanjay mostly, and then Don Callis, have done is they've kind of solidified the stories, brought it in, took what was really good from the previous regime and made it better, and then built other stories around it, and it's actually been really good. They've done a lot of work that is very similar in style, not exactly like Lucha Underground, but a lot more of that kind of segmentation with the, especially the LAX storyline that's going on, the OVE storylines that's going, OVE, of Ohio versus
OVE,
everyone.
yeah.
That storyline that's going on, and a couple other things. They've done a really, really good job with that. The Sue Young Undead Bride storyline has been fantastic. So they're doing a lot of good work on making Impact feel different from your WWE and more important. And so I applaud them for that, and I do recommend, if you can, get out there and see the Impact TV. I didn't have Pop TV when they moved, and I didn't have Destination America either, so I haven't seen them since they were on the Spike days, but I have Pop TV now, and I've had it for probably a good year, and so I've been trying my best to catch up with what TNA's doing, and Impact Wrestling is doing. They'll always be TNA to me, but what Impact is doing, and I really like it. But what I do like also is that with this MLW, that now they've released all of their shows, I think after 1 or 2 weeks of from airing, they put them on YouTube. So you can get out there to YouTube and go to the BN YouTube page, go under their videos and their playlists, and you can find all the MLW shows right there and watch them. I recommend it. Their start's a little rough, but by the time they get to episode 3 and 4, they're really well done. They're finding their niche, and they're doing better production on things. So it's a really good show. I like it. There's a lot of the same stars that you'll see in the Impact world on the same show, which I think is kind of cool, and doing a lot of the same type of stuff. So it's real fun. So I do recommend, if you haven't yet, MLW is free. It's out there. Go to YouTube. Just search for MLW shows. There's a couple other feeds out there, but look for the BN Sports channel, and that'll be the official feed that they get. And it's good for them because it gives them views and stuff. But worth your time. I mean, they're only about 40 minutes a show, so you're not investing a ton of time into it. And the stories are good, and the wrestling's fantastic. So highly recommend it. And of course, Tony Schiavone is always fun to listen to on commentary.
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to any of these post shows, if it's just you and me, we just talk about WCW. So I mean,
yeah, it brings back
Tony
a lot
Schiavone
of memories. And this is Tony Schiavone, Jim Crockett days. I mean, we're talking that kind of style. He's not doing your typical WCW style. He's doing the Crockett
because
style.
Typical WCW insanity is not happening.
Well, exactly, and the way he calls it is very Crockett style, that like the way he did it back then, and I like it a lot. It adds to the product and enhances it quite a bit, and you can tell he's having a good time with it too. So.
Oh yeah, it's been a reimagining, reborn Tony Schiavone since coming back into the wrestling world, and he seems to have fallen in love with it again, and I'm excited that he's there.
I am too, man, because that was one of the biggest disappointments for me when WCW folded, was I never got to hear him call a match again, and he was the voice of wrestling for me in my
sure.
high school and college career or life. That was what I listened to. And when he finally came back with the podcast, I was elated.
Oh, yeah.
And now he's doing all this stuff. It's been great, and I'm glad he's having fun with it, and I'm glad he's enjoying it because the wrestling world needs guys like him. He's just a fantastic guy, and he's funny, and he's just great guy to call matches. He's not over the top like some of the other guys that are out there today.
Like who? Are you referencing anybody in particular?
Well, like your Michael Coles and your
okay, yeah.
your Byron Saxtons.
Yeah.
Okay. I can handle those guys, but they're not great, and they're not my favorites. I do like Corey Graves.
Well, yeah,
he does great.
He's a great color man. People describe him as the next closest thing that we have to Bobby Heenan.
Yeah, and the best guy that WWE has working for them is Mauro Ronaldo. I mean, by far, hands down. He's the best guy they have.
The only thing with him is that he's got other commitments sometimes. Like,
well,
he just
that's
missed
fine.
His last takeover. But I mean, of course, but
he's not ready for the wear and tear of a WWE schedule. So the NXT brand is perfect for him, and I'm glad he's there. I'm glad he came back. He's done nothing but elevate that program. I really like what I've heard out of Percy so far.
Yeah, he's not bad.
And the gentleman from 205 Live who filled in, he's fantastic. Yeah, I really enjoy him. So I mean, they've got some great talent there. It's unfortunate that we have to listen to Michael Cole every week because nothing wrong with Michael Cole. He's just too much of a follower, yes man guy, and it gets boring after a while.
Yeah, that's true. You don't want to have. It's like a shtick. It gets old. He says the same catchphrases.
Yeah. Yeah. So
now, do you like Tom Phillips as the heir apparent? Do you think it's going to be better once Tom Phillips is the Michael Cole?
I don't mind Tom Phillips. I don't think he's that bad.
I just don't want him to fall into that.
No,
I'm Michael Cole and I say 5 things and it's all the same thing.
I am 100% in agreement. I don't want him to fall into that either, and hopefully he won't.
Hopefully he doesn't do that. I agree.
Yeah. Other independents, we obviously mentioned Ring of Honor here. I don't unfortunately get to see them, so I wish I did because that's some fantastic wrestling right there. And they've got some great talent. And JPW I don't get either since I lost access. But, I know you follow them. You like that stuff.
Yeah, I think I mentioned before, we have NJPW World here at the house, and we'll try to watch as many replays of the big shows as we can. If it's Wrestle Kingdom, I always try to watch that live, as insane as that is. But yeah, I try to catch as much of it live, and it's great stuff if you've got the time to sit down and watch some great in-ring stuff. Not necessarily perfect storyline wise, although it could be. You just don't really understand what they're saying. So that's where Kevin Kelly and all those guys get to explain it for you. But aside from that, it's great wrestling, and I like it. So
yeah. And what is their streaming service cost?
I want to say 899 yen. It's like less than $10 barely, I think.
Okay. So about the $9.99 mark.
It's about the same thing. Yeah.
And then Ring of Honor has their Honor Club. What does that run now?
I could not tell you. I do not know the specifics of that at the moment.
We'll have to look up that. And then Impact has the Global Wrestling Network, which I believe is $8 a month. And that gets you access to their entire back catalog, gets you access to the TV shows. I think they put the TV shows up there fairly quickly after they air. And then it doesn't give you access to their pay-per-views, which I think is a bad move on their part. I think they should. If they want people to watch, if they want people, well, number one, if they want people to buy the Global Wrestling Network, put your pay-per-views on there like WWE does. I know It's not the same amount of money that you get when you have a traditional pay-per-view, but let's face it, you're only probably pulling in 10,000 buys on pay-per-view anyway. If you can get 10,000 people subscribed on a monthly basis to your network, or even more than that, for a lesser price, you're going to bring in some more money. So I don't understand why they don't do that. Maybe they just don't have the live capability as the Ring of Honor Club does. But go find someone to do that for you, because that will sell the global network. Now, obviously, they're making some good money from the WWE lately, who's been licensing a lot of their stuff for different
Yes.
DVD packages, and of course the Something Else to Wrestle With did a show on AJ Styles on the network recently where they showed quite a bit of AJ Styles footage, so that's pretty cool. So they're making some money there, which is great because they need to find some source of income. But if they really want to get this Global Wrestling Network off, because I thought about subscribing to it because, hey, I loved the old weekly pay-per-view days.
Oh, yeah.
And
Those
I
are the
would
best.
not mind going back and watching those because all I have are really crappy quality versions of them on DVD right now from tape trading days. So
The good old days.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing good, high-quality TNA pay-per-views from the weekly era and even all the way into probably like 2008, 2009 when they were hitting their strides on pay-per-views.
So good.
It is.
God, 05 to 08 is just like
It's
incredible.
fantastic.
It was like right up until I think Main Event Mafia. Once Main Event Mafia kind of fell by the wayside and Bischoff and Hogan got in there, that's really about it.
Yeah, and they had a couple spurts of good stuff here and there after the Bischoff-Hogan era, but Bischoff and Hogan really drug them down into the pits. And then after that, I just don't think they were able to recover from it. They tried so many dumb things, like going to Monday nights. That was absolutely stupid decision. And bringing in these old-timers, and I get you want to try to pop the name value, but dude, it was like 2010, and these guys hadn't wrestled on a main stage in almost a decade. It's not going to move the needle any. So they made some big mistakes, and unfortunately they weren't able to recover from them. And now with the new ownership, they're finally doing the cost cutting they need. They're spending a little wiser, I would say. And they're doing a good job with the creative end. They've got people who work for them that really love the product and are trying to do what's best for the product. They finally have a business plan, which I don't think they probably ever had since Jarrett left. So that's a good thing. And we'll see how it goes. They've got a long way to get out of the hole that they dug themselves. But this is the crew that I think can help. And if they take it slow and spend wisely and do the right thing, they can probably get themselves out of a hole. But the first thing they got to think about doing is getting off these traditional pay-per-view waves, because they're not selling pay-per-views to make enough money to make it worth their while, I don't think. Nobody's buying $40 TNA pay-per-views. All the people I see comment on these pay-per-views are overseas, and they get it for free.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know who's paying and watching for this stuff, because it's not here in America. It's not selling here in America, I don't think. Now, if they could produce some numbers to prove me wrong, I will gladly eat those words. But I don't think that's going to happen.
No, so either.
They've never. I remember the heyday of the weekly pay-per-views. $9.95. I mean, we're talking. You spend $40 a month, you get a month's worth of pay-per-views, 4 pay-per-views, and you get basically 3 times as much wrestling as you got on a WWE monthly pay-per-view, right? Yeah. For about the same price. They were pulling in maybe 10 to 15,000 buys. I think that at the top of their days, they were pulling in maybe 25,000 buys. And that's just not sustainable. You can't spend that kind of money and expect to keep that going. So I'm curious to see if they're going to finally come through and drop that format, because I think that's what they need to do. They need to find a partner who will put them on a live stream, and get money that way. And then then I think they can make something, because I would be willing to put down $8, $9, $10 to watch a TNA pay-per-view if I could stream it on my system, because I'd be curious. The Slammiversary card looks solid. I wouldn't mind watching it, but I'm not going to pay you $40 to watch that. I'm sorry.
I don't think anyone would.
Yeah, so
unless you're a hardcore TNA fan,
which I used to be very, very much. But
oh yeah, at a point I was way more into TNA than I was WWE for a couple of years there. I mean, I would watch WWE, of course, but TNA had shows. I was like, oh my god, X Division, like what's going on? Best matches you're gonna see. Like, I mean, now WWE has AJ Styles, so I watch WWE more.
Oh, and that's exactly it. Once the exodus started with the TNA talent going and signing with NXT and WWE directly and all that stuff, there wasn't really much to care about TNA or Impact or any of that stuff. Now it's fun, and I like it, and I'll watch it, but I'm still not going to drop $40 on a pay-per-view. I just am not going to do it.
And now look at this. We're spoiled. We talked about the network at length before, and we've I think spent a total, once it was the 4 years since it came out, a total like less than $500 for the 4 years total, and we've got access to every pay-per-view ever from all three major companies, plus every new pay-per-view and unlimited content that they just keep producing. So I mean, the model's there. Yeah,
that's the thing. I mean, $9.99 a month alone is worth it for just the monthly pay-per-view show. I mean, that's a
easily
$30 discount on the show.
Even
cost.
If we had nothing else and we just got live pay-per-views, I would be content with paying $9.99 because I mean, you're getting what, again, you used to pay $40 for one, you get to pay $10 for one.
Yeah, it was a no-brainer to me.
Yeah.
So, and I think TNA needs to look at that model, and they don't have the audience that WWE does.
No, but they can do it online with a stream. How you said that. Have they done anything with Twitch?
They do have a Twitch channel, yes.
Okay, well,
and
I think that's
the thing that I think that they need to start looking at and moving towards.
That's the wave.
Yeah,
streaming is the wave.
Well, and they do live Twitch, some independent shows where their wrestlers are working and they're filming for TNA. Like, I don't know, if you go back and look at some of the TNA recent shows, what they do a lot of times on there is they'll have a more current match on there, because these are taped so far in advance. I believe the set that are running now were filmed back in January. And so their wrestlers will go out and they'll wrestle at these live event shows, and they'll send a camera crew there and film 1, 2, 3 matches, and they'll show one of those matches during the Impact broadcast. So they'll hype up the match, Moose versus Brian Cage or whatever, and they'll show you that match from a different arena. That's good and bad. Good because it's kind of cool, you get a more recent updated thing. Bad because the production value is not as good as it was when you're in Orlando, because the lighting on the indie show it's nowhere near what you need for a good show. But it's still kind of fun, and they do a lot of the Twitch stuff, Twitch broadcasts of independent shows. So that's kind of cool. With the global network, they do have agreements with a lot of these indie companies to put their shows on their network, and to take the former DVD. DVDs were huge for independent wrestling in the last 10 years, and now it's kind of gone away because of all the streaming. So they're signing deals with the global wrestling networks and the High Spots Wrestling to now stream these shows. So I think it's a good move, and I'm hoping that that's what they're looking towards. Obviously, they don't want to give away the show for free on a Twitch.
Oh, of course not.
They can use that to get their live broadcasting skills up and going, and then maybe learn how to take that and put it into their GWN streams and get it that way. Because I'll tell you what, the day that they announce that they're going to put their pay-per-views on for $7.99 a month plus all the back catalog, I'm signing up.
Exactly. It's not hard to do, and you're not going to... It's not like you're stealing an idea just because the idea's out there. Just make it your own and make it work for you. You don't have to have a drastic change in price or anything. You're not killing your bank, your budget, whatever. You're doing whatever is necessary to make sure you make money, but the product is still, valuable to all the people that want to watch it.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about the big thing with the independent scene right now, and that is All In.
I was going to segue with that. I was going to say that with what they may or may not do streaming-wise, whether it's Access TV, as we mentioned, or a stream, it should show TNA, hey, look, these guys are just going out there, and they're just making a show, and they can get distribution rights by however they do it. If you're Impact, you know that you can do it. And some of these guys work for Impact. Mm-hmm. So it's not like the ideas aren't going to be pushed around. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on it.
I'm excited about it. I hope it's not Access TV, because I don't get Access TV.
True.
So
True.
As for selfish reasons, I'm hoping it's like an Amazon or something like that, a partner that can really give the production value something that they need. I'm excited about the whole idea of the show, because I think it shows that people are invested in independent wrestling, and they're invested in these characters that aren't on your normal TV screen, and they're willing to pay money. They sold out 10,000-seat arena in 30 minutes for a show that didn't have a single match announced. Not a single one.
And it's still nothing has been announced yet.
The only thing that they're hinting is the Cody Rhodes Nick Aldis match, and that's just hinting.
Yeah, it's hinting. There's nothing set in stone, but that's where the wrestling business is right now in the independent market.
And
people want to see all these guys, no matter how they can do it, wherever they're at, and they're all putting them in one spot for cheap prices.
Yep,
it's a no-brainer.
It is, and
kudos to those guys.
It's phenomenal. And Conrad Thompson, who does the Bruce Pritchard show, the Tony Schiavone show, and the Eric Bischoff show, put together a podcast convention to go along the same weekend, and that sold out. I mean, this is phenomenal. It's going to be cool. But speaking of Nick Aldis, if you haven't gone out and watched the 10 pounds of gold net series that Billy Corgan and Dave Langa have put together for the NWA Wrestling, they have done a fantastic job. It is some of the most compelling stuff you'll watch. They got me interested in a 53-year-old champion that I had never heard of in my life. I watched every single week. I loved it. Nick Aldis has really done a great job with that brand and representing it as their champion and touring the world and defending that title. And they've done a phenomenal job of making it seem like it's really important. This is a dead brand. This brand died in 1994, only to be resurrected for a few short years in the the early 2000s when TNA joined with them and used their belt as their title until I believe 2005-ish. Or actually it would have gone to 2007-ish, I believe.
Yeah, because that's when they had the big title when all the belts were on the line.
Yep, and I mean, and after the TNA and them separated from that, they became a dead brand again. Nobody cared about the NWA. Billy Corgan shocked the world when he bought the rights to the NWA because everyone thought, well, what the hell are you going to do with that? That's a dead brand. Tell you what, guys, the NWA is no longer a dead brand. It's actually quite fun and entertaining, and if they go through with this and start building in and adding in other things like a tag team championship, a women's championship, whatever, and keep presenting it the way they're doing, it's going to be awesome. And I really recommend you go out to the NWA YouTube page and watch the 10 Pounds of Gold series. There's so many videos out now. Some of them are 10 minutes long. Some of them are 2, 3, 4 minutes long. It's not a lot of time to invest in it, and it's great. It's good stuff.
I agree. It's some fascinating stuff, and again, stuff I never would have thought I would be really watching, getting into, and that all the stuff with the 10 Pounds of Gold I thought was riveting stuff. So I mean, good for them. And Billy Corgan looks like a genius now. Yeah,
well, Dave Langa is the magic behind that all, and he's done an awesome job. But yeah, the
funding had to be there. The vision had to be seen, whether he hired someone or not.
Exactly,
and he made it happen. So I mean, kudos to him. Again, kudos to Cody, Young Bucks, all these guys wanting to make something happen, and they're doing it.
They are.
People said they couldn't, and they are doing it and succeeding.
Absolutely. It's an exciting time to be a wrestling fan. You're never going to get the days of the WCW, WWE wars again, but this is as fun as it's been in a long time. So, if you're not into the independents now, we gave you a bunch of names to go check out. There's videos out there all over the place. Go check them out. It's worth your time. It's worth your investment. And if you have a local promotion in town, go check it out sometime, because you can have a great, fun time at a local indie show, even if you don't know who any of these guys are.
Oh, without a doubt. There's a couple of indies around my area that are very small, but I mean, some of the guys that are in the local independent scene do get to your Ring of Honors, and you might see them in WWE one day. So I mean, the landscape is broad right now, and it's a great time to be a wrestling fan, like you said.
It is. Well, that's going to do it for this week. We thank you for joining us. If you want to talk to us, hit us up on Twitter. I am at Brian Thomas 878, and he is at Juicy Steen, Sten, like Kevin Steen. And we'll be back next week. Thank you, and have a great night.
See you.
It is exhausting being so talented.
my time.